And as Michael was describing this, I had the only visual vision that I can ever remember having in my life. I've had visceral visions with no visual component before, and they've all come true, but never a visual vision. And it was that Michael's ribs were golden gates. And I saw those gates swing open. And I saw 10,000 kids in his chest, Michael's kids. Yeah. And so I explained to Michael the negative press that was happening, and explained to him that if he postponed the tour, that would validate all these claims of amateurism. And he would not be able to attract his fans to his concerts because parents would not let kids go. So Michael agreed to continue with the tour date as it was originally scheduled. So those are my two major meetings with Michael. And I came away from these meetings with the feeling that I seemed to be the only one around Michael who understood him. He had some very talented people around him. You would think they would have understood him. And yet they didn't seem to get it on an empathic gut level of who he was and what he was and why he had a capacity for awe, wonder, and surprise that I needed to someday memorialize. Why did I need to do that? I mean, I needed to do that. I needed to write that in Einstein, Michael Jackson, and Me, A Search for Soul, in the Power Pits of Rock and Roll, this book whose cover is behind me. I needed to get that down in the book. I needed to take you viscerally into being right next to Michael Jackson or right inside of Michael Jackson. And my job is to find the gods inside of you that danced you on stage. So with Peter Gabriel, my job was to find his primary focus. And what I discovered very rapidly was he loves technology, absolutely loves technology. One day he walked into my office and he said, there's this theory I think you should know about. It's called the Gaia hypothesis. So I went and looked it up, and I found an article in Natural History magazine by Lynn Margulis and Dorian Sagan, Carl Sagan's oldest son, about it. And that was the article that convinced me that I should call my upcoming book The Lucifer Principle, in deliberate opposition to the Gaia hypothesis. And that I should focus the book on human evil and its explanation in evolutionary terms, and how it helps you see everything around you and everything inside of you from a radically new point of view when you look at it through that lens. And that's The Lucifer Principle, a scientific expedition into the forces of history. My first book.
Let me introduce to you one more genius artist, musician. And I think, like, from listening to your previous podcast, it might be your favorite, or the one that's closest to you. I think you once described. Do you know who I'm alluding to?
No, because Michael is the one who was closest to me.
I mean, more like a similar. It has a similar character, and maybe also from the looks a little bit. Alice Cooper.
It's Alice Cooper.
Yes.
Do
you remember your experience of that? I think you had like a really like a hard rock phase where you really like loved the anger music, no?
Yes, I loved the anger music, and I was the editor of a rock magazine, and I'd never had anything to do with rock and roll before in my life. I had to do crash study to become a scholar in that field. And I convinced my publisher to allow me to put a ballot in the magazine. So we had a top 20, and down at the bottom was a ballot. And if you wanted your favorite artist to go to the top of the chart, then send in the ballot and tell me what your favorite artist is. And we started tabulating what the favorite artist was. And Alice Cooper was the favorite artist, and Alice Cooper outpaced the number 2 artist 2-1. The number 2 artist was David Bowie. And the story of Alice Cooper, as I understood it, as I got it from Shep Gordon, Alice's manager, and then through Alice, is that when Alice was a kid down in Arizona, he was skinny. His mother, he had a big nose. His mother dressed him in a suit every day and sent him off to school. And that meant that the kids mocked him. They hated him because he was the teacher's pet. So, but one day there was a talent show when Alice was in high school, and he went on stage. Well, first, another incident when he was 16 or so. One of his neighbors came over and she had a Ouija board.
Yes.
And she made contact with an old soul, a witch from the 1650s who'd been burned at the stake. And the witch said to Alice Cooper, "You are my living incarnation today." And the witch's name was Alice Cooper. And the witch inside of Alice, it turned out, his name was Vince Fernier at the time. The witch inside of him was far more powerful than the good kid who went to school and who was the teacher's pet.
And it's somehow this I don't know, this evilness or this monstrosity inside of us that he's expressing, that's so fascinating and hypnotizing for so many people. No, it's this shock,
right.
and also this love for this truth kind of. No.
Well, the deal is, I used to walk up Park Avenue on the way to my office, Circus Magazine, wondering if by having Alice Cooper in every single issue, which is what I did, I was making kids more violent, or if this was exercise for the animals in the brain.